Hey guys, so we're back in the tool set now, and I'm going to quickly show you how the properties are chosen when you're dynamically adding properties. If you notice that there's these 2DA files are ranging from level 0 to 8. These are the item levels that I was talking about before, and in each contains the list of actual properties that are randomly chosen from. So level 1 items would get their properties chosen from this 2DA. So if you want to pull these out of the hack pack and modify them to suit your needs, by all means do that, and then just throw them back in your hack pack when you're done, and away you go. We'll look at one real quick. The layout is fairly straightforward. These are a list of all the properties that you can have. If you don't want a level 1 to have mass critical, you can just remove it. And the properties parameter, sorry, for each property. Some properties only need one parameter. So for example, the ability bonus, it's going to have, well, sorry, ability bonus has two parameters: the actual ability that you're modifying, and then the value. The third parameter, which is not used on this property, you can just have asterisks for it. But other properties, like the damage bonus versus a specific alignment, that one will have three properties, so you can have the min-maxes for each of the three parameters that goes along with that property. And then the restriction columns are basically what item groups should never have this property. So for example, the I don't know, the ability bonus should never appear on item of group L. And these letters, what these groups of letters means is in the documentation there's a table for each group, item group type, and there's a corresponding letter with it. So if you didn't want, for example, strength bonuses or whatever to be on a particular item type group, you can choose that here, or even a particular item. So you can choose those here, and you can have up to 4 group restrictions. And then a group exclude if if a property should never it should be excluded from a particular item group. And I think this is staffs and wands. Pretty much all of these properties don't belong on those, so that's why you'll see that kind of exception there. But that's the 2DA, so if you have a desire to modify what particular items are selected by the loop plugin, you can go ahead and modify your 2DAs. And that's that. So we're going to move on now with the next part of the tutorial, and that is we're going to spawn some loot out of a chest. Now, I'm going to come over here to blueprints, and I think I'm going to just grab a chest. And yeah, that one looks good, so I'm just going to copy this chest. Now what I can do is I can fire up the loot plugin right on this blueprint and put in some various loot, a various amount of gold, and with a 10% chance of spawning a gem or whatever maybe, and just plop this blueprint around my world. However, in this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use the spawning plugin to spawn this chest. So I'm going to grab a waypoint from the spawn plugin and place it down, and I'm going to fire it up. Now again, you can learn more about this through the spawn plugins videos. Select placeable, and the chest that I have, should someone decide to bash this chest, I'm going to have it respawn 2 minutes later, and that's about it. I can optionally use the on-use despawn minutes. What this means is that after a chest is open, the chest will disappear this many minutes later, and then again respawn 2 minutes after that. Again, all the different kinds of spawn options, have a look at the spawn plugin for all that, because you can, I could spawn this chest in a random location in a dungeon, all kinds of different sorts of things, but that's all spawn related. One thing that I do want to make a comment about though is this generate loot plugin loot. If the object in which if the placeable in which I'm spawning here is a loot based one, I do have to turn this on. Okay, so if I'm creating a link between the spawn plugin and the loot plugin, and the thing I'm spawning here is going to be used for loot, I want to turn that on. Okay, so turn that on, have my chest spawn, and away we go. The rest of the options you can learn about in the spawn plugin video. So I'm going to click finish and quit. Now again, this is the first time we've used a replaceable object, so I'm going to want to compile all my scripts. So it's always a good idea to do that whenever you do something for the first time, because sometimes scripts are generated automatically for you and you're going to want to compile them. So we'll put that blueprints back, and now what we're going to do is we're going to modify this waypoint to have loot. So we'll fire up the loot plugin on it and edit the waypoint. And since again, if I was just going to modify the placeable blueprint, I'd just use that, but we're doing the waypoint instead. In this one, I'm going to create another dynamic item, and I want to create a weapon. So I want some kind of weapon in this chest. Don't know what, but some kind of weapon. And I'm going to leave, actually I'm going to have a quantity of one. I want one weapon, and it's going to be there 100% of the time. This time I'm going to have it have 3 level 1 properties, and it's going to have 6 character name. And so what we're going to do with this weapon is it's going to have 3 properties, which is going to quickly make it a fairly powerful weapon, because 3, even though they're level 1 properties, you're going to have 3 of them. So this thing gets pretty strong pretty quick. So I'm going to have those, and I'm also going to put a required property on here. And a required property is something that must always appear on this weapon, no matter what it is. If it's a bow, it's going to have this property. If it's a sword, it's going to have this property. It doesn't matter. So this is something that I can force on. And in this example, I'm just going to use light. So the required property for light has some parameters, and the first parameter is going to be how bright that light is going to be. So I'm going to select normal. And the second parameter is the color. So I'm going to choose yellow. Now these parameter boxes, the content of them change depending on what the required property is. It just populates it with what it needs to know, so it's smart enough to know what the properties go along with each required property. So we're going to have light. Now the thing that you have to bear in mind here is what's going to happen is I'm going to end up with an item with 4 properties on it. I'm going to have 3 dynamically selected properties, and I'm going to have 1 required property. If I wanted this light property to count against these 3, I can just check this count required property checkbox on, and then what's going to happen is this is actually going to have 2 dynamic properties, and the required property of light is going to count against the third one. Now I could just leave this off and change this to 2. It's totally up to you, whatever way you want to do it. Means the same thing. So we're just going to have this set up like this, and I think that's it. So we'll add. So we'll finish, and what I'm going to do before I fire this up is I'm just going to take the spawn point and I'm going to copy it, and I'll place it right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a change to this one, just a slight variation. It's still going to be the same weapon with all the same numbers on it, but I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to check this max item level box on this one. Now this one requires a little bit of explanation. When I don't have this on, the property count is the total number of properties the system is going to place on the weapon. The total number of level 1 properties. Okay, that's what's going to appear. However, when I have max item level property checkbox checked on, what's going to happen is it's going to continue to add properties that add up to the property count. Now, if I leave this at level 1, it's not going to be too complicated what it's going to choose to do. It's going to choose 3 level 1 properties. But let's say I did something like this, or even this. What's going to happen here, without this checkbox normally, it would select 3 level 3 properties, which could make for a pretty strong weapon. But if I turn this on in this example, what'll happen is I will get 3, I won't get 3 total properties, I'm going to get 3 levels worth of properties. Now, that could be a little confusing, but what's going to happen is the system is going to choose properties enough to make the total levels equal 3. And it's going to choose properties from anywhere between level 1 and 3. That's what this item level changes to. So what that means is this weapon could have 3 level 1 properties on it. It could have a single level 2 property and 2 level 1 properties. Or it could have a single level 3 property. The total amount of levels is going to add up to whatever we put here. So levels 1, it could be a level 1 property, could be level 2 property, could be level 3 property, but it will keep adding properties until it reaches a total level count of 3. Okay, so that's what this means. So I'm going to leave this like this. Without this checkbox, without this max item level checkbox, this could be a really powerful item. It's going to have 3 level 3 properties. But with it on, all it means is it's going to have a total of 3 levels worth of properties. So we'll demonstrate that. I'm going to click finish and quit. So I'm going to fire this up in game and show you those 2 weapons and see what we get. Okay, so we're in game here, and we're just going to wait for our chests to spawn. There they are. So the first one we're going to look at is this chest here, and in it we see a short sword. And it is the short sword of Emoj, and we'll examine that. And as we can see, it's got 3 level 1 items, 3 level 1 properties on it. It's got a 1d6 fire bonus, it's got a enhancement bonus versus good of +2, and it's got a normal light power on it. That was the required property. So as you can see, adding properties to an item, if you add more than one, they can quickly become quite a powerful item, so you have to be really careful about that. So, you know, that's where the other kind of chest comes in that we'll look at right now, which is this guy. Now this guy has 3 properties as well, but it's going to limit the level of those to be anywhere between 1 and 3 for a total of level 3. And it is the Bastard Sword of Weejog. So let's have a look at that one and see what it created for us. And it has a damage bonus versus shape changer of 3d6, our required property of light, and vampiric regeneration +2. So again, the total levels of this is going to be 3, and not including our light because that was a required property. So we're going to have one of these is going to be like a level 2, and one of them is going to be like a level 1 property. So you can control that a little bit more by specifying that checkbox maximum mana level. Go through the documentation. It explains it a little bit better than maybe I've described it here, but it'll keep your powers under check when you start using multiple properties on items. So we're going to go back to the toolset now and discuss one more thing regarding the loot plugin, and that is loot tables. That pretty much covers it for dynamic loot, and we'll see you there in a second.